Imagine the most dangerous universe in all of fiction. A place where demons don't just kill you, they wear your skin, they drink your soul. They turn your bones into thrones and call it home. A place where the armies of hell have conquered entire dimensions. Where ancient gods bleed out on the floor and nobody even blinks. Where the only thing standing between humanity and absolute annihilation is one man, one warrior, one absolute machine of violence and fury. The Doom Slayer. He is not a hero. Heroes have limits. He is something older than that, something that hell itself fears, something that makes demons pray and demons don't pray. Now imagine taking that universe, that blood-soaked, skull-filled nightmare dimension of endless war, and dropping in one bald man in a yellow jumpsuit. A man who can't find a good fight. A man who defeated God-level threats and felt nothing. A man who once destroyed an entire mountain range because he sneezed wrong. Saitama, not a demon, not a slayer, not a warrior with ancient armor and a soul forged in the fires of hell. Just a guy, a very, very bored guy. And that is exactly why this crossover breaks everything. Because when the most overpowered character in anime history walks into the most brutal universe in gaming history, nobody is ready. Not the demons, not the slayer, not even the icon of sin. This is not a battle of power levels. This is a collision of two completely different philosophies of violence. And today we are going to watch what happens when an unstoppable force meets a man who already stopped everything worth stopping. Welcome to What If Saitama Entered the Doom Universe. Before we go any further, and trust me, you do not want to miss what happens in Part 3 when the Doom Slayer actually finds Saitama. Hit that subscribe button right now. This channel exists for exactly this kind of question. The crossovers that nobody asks out loud but everybody secretly wants answered. The matchups that break logic, break power scaling, and break the comment section. If you are new here, welcome. You picked a good day to show up. Drop in the comments right now, who do you think survives this? The Doom Slayer or Saitama? I want to see that debate go absolutely wild before this video is even over. Like the video if you are already excited, and let's get into it. Let's set the stage properly, because if you just throw these two characters together without understanding what each of them actually is, you miss the entire point. So let's start with the world Saitama comes from. In the One Punch Man universe, the world has a hero association, a ranked system of professional heroes who protect humanity from monsters, disaster-level threats, and catastrophic entities that would level cities. The ranking goes from C-Class all the way up to S-Class. The strongest heroes on the planet sit in S-Class, people like Tatsumaki, who can level a city with her mind, Flashy Flash, who moves faster than most people can perceive, Bang. A martial artist whose techniques can reshape the landscape around him. And then there is Saitama. Unranked, unknown, dismissed. He passed the Hero Association's physical exam by such a wide margin that the testing computers flagged it as a glitch and threw out the results. He does not appear on any power scaling chart because no chart goes that high. He is not the strongest hero. He is not even properly categorized as a threat. He is just a man who trained so hard that something inside him broke, or maybe unlocked. Nobody really knows, not even him. What the audience knows is this: Saitama has never, not once, had to use a second punch. Every fight ends in one hit. Every monster, every god, every cosmic entity that came down from the stars with the intention of reshaping reality around itself. One punch done over. Next, he defeated Burroughs, an alien conqueror who traveled across the stars for centuries looking for a worthy opponent, who had enough power to destroy a planet. One punch. He defeated Garu, a man who had evolved so far beyond human limits that he was rewriting the laws of physics around himself, a man who had absorbed cosmic energy and become something close to a god of destruction. One punch, every single time. The result is the same. And that is Saitama's tragedy, not that he is weak, but that he is so strong that strength has become meaningless to him. He does not feel excitement anymore. He does not feel the rush of a close fight. He does not feel fear or urgency or the electric thrill of not knowing whether he is going to survive. He feels nothing. He goes to the grocery store. He watches TV. He plays video games. He shows up to fights in the same relaxed posture you would use to check your mailbox. He is not searching for power. He already has all of it. He is searching for a feeling. Now let's talk about where he just landed. The Doom universe is not a universe. It is a war. It has always been a war. It will always be a war. The concept of peace does not exist here. It was never even a possibility. In this universe, hell is not a place you go after you die. Hell is a dimension, a living, breathing, expanding dimension of demonic energy that has been consuming other dimensions for longer than most civilizations have existed. The demons are not creatures. They are weapons, biological war machines shaped by millions of years of survival in the most hostile environment imaginable. The weakest demon you encounter in this universe, the imp, can throw balls of superheated plasma and survive impacts that would turn a human being into a red stain on the wall. The stronger ones are worse. The barons of hell stand twice the height of a man and hit hard enough to cave in reinforced steel. The marauders are warriors even other demons avoid. The archviles can literally resurrect fallen demons mid-combat, turning every fight into an equation that never resolves. And then there is the icon of sin, the final boss, a demon so large it uses skyscrapers as stepping stones, a creature so powerful that in Doom Eternal, taking it down required the combined firepower of the entire Earth Defense Force, plus a weapon built from the skull of a god. This universe does not do easy. It does not do mercy. It does not do survivors. Except one, the Doom Slayer has been fighting hell for so long that hell has a name for him in their ancient texts. The Doom Slayer has been killing demons since before most of the demons alive today were born. He has torn through every layer of hell. He has slaughtered hell priests. He has killed the Khan Maker, a godlike ruler of a dimension that considered itself beyond the reach of anything mortal. He does not use tactics. He uses momentum. He moves so fast that demons cannot track him. He hits so hard that demon biology simply stops functioning. He takes damage that should kill a man 10 times over and uses it as fuel to hit harder. The Doom Slayer is not powered by technology or magic. He is powered by pure, distilled, absolute hatred for demons, and that hatred has never run out. These are the two figures. One man who has everything and feels nothing. One warrior who has lost everything and feels everything. All of it rage. They are about to exist in the same universe, and the demons are about to have the worst day in the history of hell. But here is the thing nobody has considered yet. When Saitama arrives in the Doom universe, he does not arrive with a mission. He does not arrive with anger. He does not arrive ready to fight. He arrives the same way he always shows up everywhere, mildly curious, slightly hungry. Wondering if this new place has a decent supermarket, he looks around at the shattered skyline, the burning buildings, the rivers of demon blood running through the streets. The screams that echo across a city that used to hold 3 million people and now holds only carnage. He tilts his head, he says, this looks kind of rough. And then a baron of hell lands directly in front of him, 8 feet tall, eyes like molten iron, hands the size of car hoods. It roars at him. The sound of it cracks the asphalt under Saitama's feet. Saitama looks at it. It roars again, louder this time. Chunks of debris shake loose from destroyed buildings around them. The sky above them fills with the sound of more demons closing in, dozens, then hundreds. Saitama puts one hand in his pocket. He says, "Okay, I guess." The Baron of Hell charged. That is what barons do. That is all they know. Forward, always forward, teeth out, claws extended. Plasma building between their hands like a miniature sun getting ready to go supernova. In every dimension they have ever invaded, that charge has ended the same way, with something dead on the ground that used to be standing. The Baron crossed the distance between itself and Saitama in less than a second. Saitama stepped slightly to the left, not a dodge. Not a trained defensive maneuver. The kind of casual sidestep you do when someone is walking toward you on a sidewalk and you don't want to make it awkward. The Baron's fist hit the ground where Saitama was standing, and the shockwave cracked the earth in a 30-foot radius. Buildings that were already half destroyed by the invasion lost their remaining walls. A crater opened up in the middle of the street wide enough to swallow a city bus. Saitama looked down at the crater, then back up at the Baron. "You almost got me," he said. He did not sound impressed. He did not sound scared. He sounded the way you sound when a friend makes a joke that almost lands. The Baron turned. Its eyes locked onto him with the kind of focused demon intelligence that hell had spent centuries developing. A predatory calculation. It was reading him, measuring him, deciding whether this was prey that needed to be overwhelmed with power or prey that needed to be broken first. It decided on overwhelm. It launched both hands forward simultaneously. Twin balls of superheated plasma screaming toward Saitama at a velocity that would have turned any human soldier into ash before they even registered the light. Saitama caught one in each hand. He looked at them, turned them over. The plasma churned and spat against his palms like water trying to boil its way through stone. It did not boil through, it did not burn. It just sat there in his hands, increasingly confused about why it was not working. "Hot," Saitama said. He said it the way you say it when you pick up a coffee mug that is slightly warmer than expected, not a complaint, just an observation. Then he clapped his hands together. The resulting shockwave did not just hit the Baron, it hit everything. The compressed air exploded outward in a perfect sphere, and every demon within 4 city blocks was lifted off the ground and thrown backward with the casual violence of a child flicking ants off a picnic table. The Baron of Hell, 8 feet of demonic muscle and ancient fury, traveled approximately 600 meters before making contact with the side of a reinforced building. The building did not win that exchange. Saitama looked around at the suddenly empty street. He said, "Okay." And then he started walking again, same direction as before, hands in pockets, looking at the burning skyline the way a tourist looks at architecture they have been told is historically significant but cannot quite bring themselves to feel excited about. Behind him, in the rubble, the Baron of Hell was not moving. That had never happened before. The thing about Hell's command structure is that it is not just an army. It is a system, a living intelligence spread across millions of demonic minds connected through something older than language and more precise than radio. When a demon encounters something it cannot process, something that does not fit the established categories of prey, obstacle, or threat, that information travels. Instantly, every demon in the city felt the Baron go down, not the fact of it, the texture of it. The way it happened, no struggle, no prolonged engagement, no escalating combat where the demon could measure its opponent and call for backup at the appropriate threshold. Just gone. Something had done that. Something was now walking through their invasion corridor with its hands in its pockets. The response was automatic. The way your immune system responds to something it does not recognize. Not with one type of cell, but with everything all at once. Maximum response. Figure out what you are dealing with by throwing the entire library at it. What came next was not a wave of demons. It was a flood. Imps dropped from every building surface, their claws shrieking against concrete and steel. Hell Knights poured around corners in packs, their heavy footsteps shaking the ground with each stride. Cacodemons, massive floating spheres of teeth and rage, descended from the smoke-filled sky in numbers that blocked out what remained of the sun. Mancubi, enormous biological artillery platforms, lumbered into position at both ends of the street and began charging their arm-mounted cannons from above. A cyberdemon descended, one of Hell's heavy hitters, part demon, part machine, a creature that had been mechanically augmented beyond the limits of organic biology, until it became something closer to a weapons platform than a living thing. Its rocket launcher arm locked onto Saitama from 300 meters up and fired a continuous stream of warheads that would have leveled a city block. Saitama looked up at the incoming rockets. He exhaled through his nose. He started punching, not hard, not the serious punch. Just casually, The way you swat flies on a summer afternoon when they keep interrupting whatever you are trying to do. Left hand, left, right. Each punch intercepted a rocket mid-flight, and the resulting detonation expanded outward into the surrounding demon horde with enough force to clear the street in sections. The Mancubi fired. The beams hit him and spread across his skin like light hitting a mirror, scattering harmlessly in every direction, setting fire to everything nearby except him. The imps swarmed. Saitama walked through them. He did not stop walking. He did not change his pace. Each imp that made contact with him experienced what happens when biology meets something that biology was never designed to interact with. They did not get thrown. They did not get punched. They simply ceased to be a problem. The way a wave ceases to be a wave when it hits a cliff. The cacodemons dove from above. He glanced up, reached up and grabbed the closest one by what passed for its face. He looked at it for a moment. It bit down on his arm with enough force to crush reinforced steel into a paperclip. He waited patiently for it to finish biting. Then he set it down, relatively gently by his standards, and it bounced twice before stopping. It was still alive, just very, very reconsidering its life choices. The cyberdemon ran out of rockets. It switched to its mechanical fist and drove it downward at Saitama like a piston from the sky. Saitama caught it with one hand. The cyberdemon strained. Its mechanical system screamed. Every hydraulic in its augmented arm pushed to maximum capacity and kept pushing past maximum capacity because there was nowhere else for the math to go. Saitama held it in place, not struggling, just holding it. The way you hold a door open for someone who is taking slightly longer to walk through than you expected. "You're pretty big," he said to the cyberdemon. The cyberdemon did not respond. It was too busy having an existential crisis about physics. Saitama tapped its fist with his free hand. Just tapped it. The cyberdemon rocketed backward into the sky and disappeared into the cloud cover. There was a distant boom from somewhere above the clouds that rattled every window in a 2-mile radius. Then silence. Saitama stood in the middle of the street. Every demon that had been sent to deal with him was either unconscious, airborne, or had developed a sudden urgent interest in being somewhere else. He looked around. "Is that it?" he said. It was not said as a challenge. It was said as a genuine question, the same tone you use when you are waiting for more food to come out of the kitchen, and you are not sure if the meal is finished or if there is another course. It was not it. Deep in the dimensional fabric of the Doom universe, in a place that exists between the physical layer of hell and the conceptual layer where hell's oldest intelligence resides, something noticed, not a demon, not a commander, not a hell priest or a maker, something older. The monitoring systems that hell had developed over millions of years of dimensional conquest were not simple surveillance. They were analytical, they categorized. They took in data from every demon in every dimension and processed it against the accumulated knowledge of every species hell had ever consumed, every warrior it had ever faced, every power it had ever encountered and eventually broken. The data coming in from this unnamed human city did not fit any category. The system tried anyway. It ran the footage of Saitama against its database. It compared him to every class of entity it had records for. Mortal, no. The physical metrics were wrong. Demigod, no. The energy signature was absent. Cosmic entity, no. The behavioral profile was completely wrong. Cosmic entities did not put their hands in their pockets. The system flagged it. Unknown classification, elevated threat designation, suggested response, escalate to command level. At command level, a hell priest received the notification. He watched the footage. He watched Saitama walk through an entire invasion force. He watched the Baron fall. He watched the cyberdemon become a rapidly ascending dot in the sky. He watched Saitama stop in the middle of a street full of unconscious demons and say, "Is that it?" With the energy of a man who had just finished a mediocre meal, the hell priest was not afraid. Hell priests did not fear. Fear was a tool they used on others, not something that lived in them, but he was concerned. He pulled up a different file, a file hell kept under the highest levels of classification, a file that contained information about a different threat, a threat that hell had spent millennia trying to eliminate and had only succeeded in making angrier. The file was labeled with a symbol that translated roughly to the one they could not break. He looked at the footage of Saitama again. He looked at the file. He made a decision. He sent a message across Hell's command network, not to a division, not to a battalion, to the Doomslayer's current location, not to warn him, not to ask for help, to use him. If this unknown entity and the Doomslayer occupied the same space, they would destroy each other. That was the plan. Two impossible threats in one location. Let them cancel each other out. Let Hell clean up whatever was left. It was a good plan. It was also the worst plan the Hell Priest had ever made. He just did not know that yet. Because he did not understand what Saitama actually was. He had the footage. He had the power readings, which registered as either broken or infinite depending on which instrument Hell used to measure. He had the behavioral data, but he did not have context. He did not know that Saitama had already fought things far worse than anything Hell had ever produced. He did not know that Saitama was not looking for a fight. He was looking for a feeling. And somewhere in this blood-soaked universe, for the first time in longer than Saitama could remember, he was starting to feel something that was almost like anticipation. Not because of the demons, because somewhere nearby, he could sense something that was moving through this world the same way he did, fast, deliberate, completely without hesitation. Something that fought like it meant it. He tilted his head in that direction. "Oh," he said, and for the first time in a very long time, Saitama smiled. The Doomslayer did not receive the Hell Priest's message the way a soldier receives orders. He received it the way a fire receives oxygen. He was already moving through the eastern sector of the city when the demonic signal hit his neural interface. The ancient sentinel technology woven into the Predator suit that translated Hell's communication frequencies into something his human brain could process. He did not stop moving when the signal arrived. He processed it while reloading. He understood it while climbing. He made his decision while already changing direction. Something had knocked out an entire invasion corridor. One entity, no weapons detected, no energy signature consistent with any known power source. Hundreds of demons down. A cyberdemon currently in low orbit above the cloud layer, which was a sentence that had never existed before in the history of Hell's military intelligence. The Doomslayer had one reaction to this information. He ran faster, not because he was worried, not because he needed backup. The Doomslayer did not do worried, and he had never needed backup. He ran faster because in all his centuries of fighting Hell, in all the dimensions he had torn through, and all the demons he had reduced to vapor, and all the godlike entities he had dismantled piece by piece, he had never once seen a combat report that looked like this. One entity, hands in pockets, walking. He wanted to see it. He moved through the city the way he always moved, at a speed that human perception could not comfortably track, vaulting debris, sliding under collapsed infrastructure, using the geometry of destruction the way a parkour athlete uses the geometry of buildings. The Predator suit's heads-up display fed him constant information, demon positions, structural integrity ratings for every surface he crossed, threat assessments updating in real time. The threat assessments kept doing something unusual. Every demon in his projected path was already down, not dead, down, which was strange. The Doomslayer killed demons. Whatever had come through here had simply stopped them, like turning off a switch. There was a distinction there that his tactical mind kept returning to. You kill things you are fighting. You stop things you are not particularly concerned about. He came around the corner of a collapsed parking structure and stopped. For the first time in a very long time, the Doomslayer stopped moving voluntarily. Saitama was sitting on a chunk of broken concrete in the middle of the street. Around him, in various states of structural rearrangement, were approximately 200 demons. None of them were moving. Some of them were stacked, not deliberately. It was just that when Saitama had walked through them. The physics of the situation had resulted in a kind of involuntary pile. Saitama was not looking at the demons. He was looking at a piece of paper he had apparently found somewhere in the rubble, a grocery list. It turned out, from someone who had evacuated the city. He was reading it with the focused attention of a man who had nothing else particularly pressing to do. The Doom Slayer stood at the end of the street and looked at him. His threat assessment system ran a full scan. It came back with a result that had never appeared on his display before in all his centuries of operation. The display said, "Assessment incomplete, insufficient reference data." The Doom Slayer looked at the screen, then at Saitama, then at the 200 unconscious demons. He walked forward. His boots hit the debris-covered asphalt, and the sound was enough to make every remaining conscious demon within a quarter-mile instinctively move in the opposite direction. That sound, the specific rhythm of the Doom Slayer's approach, was burned into Hell's collective memory the way a brand is burned into skin. It meant something was about to end. It had always meant that. Saitama heard the footsteps. He looked up from his grocery list. He saw the Doom Slayer, full Predator suit, ancient sentinel armor layered over modern UAC composite plating. The whole assembly covered in the accumulated damage of centuries of continuous combat. Not damage that had weakened it, but damage that had been repaired so many times the repairs had become part of the armor's identity. Glowing green visor. The BFG 9000 holstered across his back like a man carrying a briefcase. Shoulders that communicated, purely through geometry, that whatever was behind them had absolutely no interest in negotiating. Saitama looked at him for a moment. "Oh," he said, "are you a hero too?" The Doom Slayer said nothing. He never said anything. Words were not part of his operational framework. "I'm Saitama," Saitama said. He gave a small wave, the wave of a man introducing himself at a community event. "I just kind of ended up here. I'm not really sure how." The Doom Slayer's visor scanned him. Full spectrum analysis, biological readings, energy output, threat classification. The suit system tried 4 different classification frameworks and returned incomplete on all 4. The Doom Slayer tilted his head slightly, a barely perceptible movement. For him, that was the equivalent of a full stop and a raised eyebrow. "You're not going to introduce yourself." Saitama said. Silence. "That's fine," Saitama said. He folded up his grocery list and put it in his pocket. "I found a grocery list. These people had pretty normal stuff, eggs, milk, bread." He paused. "I wonder if there's a store around here that still has stock." The Doom Slayer looked at the grocery list pocket, then at the 200 demons, then back at Saitama. Something was happening in the Doom Slayer's processing that did not happen often. He was recalibrating, taking in information that did not fit his existing models and making room for it instead of dismissing it. He had fought gods. He had fought ancient cosmic beings. He had fought things that operated on levels of power so far above human biology that the comparison was almost meaningless. None of them had ever sat down on a rock after clearing 200 demons and wondered about grocery stores. He made a decision. He was not going to fight this person yet. Yet, instead he pointed north, in the direction of the largest demonic concentration in the city, the place where the invasion was thickest, where the portal was, where the demons were still pouring through in numbers that the UAC's automated defense systems had long since given up trying to count. Saitama looked north. He could see the pillar of dark energy rising from the portal's site, red and black and enormous. The kind of visual that in his home universe would have meant a dragon-level threat minimum, probably god-level, definitely something that required the full attention of every S-class hero available. "Is that where the problem is?" Saitama said. The Doom Slayer pointed again, more firmly. "Okay," Saitama said. He stood up. He brushed some concrete dust off his yellow jumpsuit. "Lead the way, I guess." They moved through the city together. It was one of the strangest things the Doom universe had ever produced. And this was a universe that had produced a lot of strange things. The Doom Slayer at full operational speed, cutting through every demon they encountered with the precise, controlled violence of a man who had optimized every movement for maximum efficiency over centuries of practice. Chainsaw for the heavy ones, shotgun for the clusters, super shotgun for anything that thought it was special. Combat shotgun for the fast movers, the whole operation running like a machine, because it was a machine, the most refined demon-killing machine in the history of any dimension. And then Saitama, walking next to him, occasionally tapping a demon out of the way when one came directly at him. Not running, not adapting, not tactically maneuvering, just walking at a pace he found comfortable, which happened to be fast enough to keep up with the Doom Slayer's sprint without any apparent effort. The Doom Slayer noticed this. He was operating at speeds that human biomechanics should not have been able to sustain. He was sustained by the Predator suit and centuries of physical conditioning that had pushed his body so far past human normal that the comparison was purely cosmetic. He was not running slowly. He was running at the outer limit of what his augmented body could produce. Saitama was keeping pace in street clothes. The Doom Slayer processed this. He ran faster. Saitama sped up without looking like he sped up. Same posture, same relaxed expression, same hands occasionally coming out of pockets to redirect a demon before going back in. The Doom Slayer processed this further. He pushed to absolute maximum. The Predator suit's mobility systems fully engaged. Every sentinel enhancement he had accumulated operating at peak output. He was moving at a speed where the friction against the air was starting to produce heat along the leading edges of his armor. Saitama was still next to him, not breathing hard, not even looking at him. He was looking at a building they were passing and apparently reading a sign on it. The Doom Slayer stopped running. Saitama stopped next to him. He looked at the Doom Slayer, then in the direction they had been running, then back. "Did you want to go a different way?" Saitama said. The Doom Slayer's visor was aimed directly at him. The scan was still running. It had been running continuously since their first contact, and it had produced exactly 0 useful classification data. The system had now escalated to running comparisons against theoretical entities, power classes that existed in UAC research databases as mathematical concepts rather than observed phenomena. It was finding partial matches. Partial. "You're really quiet," Saitama said. "That's okay, I had a friend who talked a lot. It was kind of exhausting sometimes." The Doom Slayer turned back toward the portal. He started moving again, slightly slower this time, not because he was tired, because he was thinking. In all his centuries of combat across every dimension, against every category of enemy hell had ever produced, he had developed an instinct, a deep, precise, survival-honed instinct that operated below conscious thought and had never been wrong. That instinct was currently telling him something very specific about the bald man in the yellow jumpsuit walking next to him. It was telling him, "Do not punch this one, not out of fear." The Doom Slayer did not process fear in any conventional sense, but he had a tactical understanding of threat that went beyond fear, a calculation, and the calculation was currently running numbers about what would happen if he engaged this entity directly and coming up with answers that even he found uncomfortable. So he did not punch him. Instead, he pointed again at the portal pillar on the horizon. Saitama nodded. "Right," he said. "Let's go close that thing." And then, for approximately 4 seconds, the Doom Slayer looked at him, really looked at him, at the yellow jumpsuit, at the bald head, at the completely relaxed posture of a man who had just walked through 200 demons and a cyberdemon, and had the same energy as someone returning from a mild errand. And somewhere behind the green visor, in the part of the Doom Slayer that was still technically human even after everything that had been done to it and everything it had done. Something that might have been the distant ancestral memory of amusement flickered for exactly 1 moment. Then he turned and kept moving. Hell was watching, every sensor, every demonic eye in the city, every monitoring system the Hell Priests had deployed across this invasion corridor. They watched the two of them move toward the portal. The Hell Priest who had sent them toward each other was no longer feeling concerned. He was feeling something that his species had not experienced in a very long time. He was feeling afraid, because his plan, his elegant, efficient plan to use one impossible threat to destroy another, had just produced the one outcome he had not modeled. They were not fighting each other. They were walking toward the portal side by side, the Doom Slayer and whatever Saitama was together. "Close the portal," he said. His voice was steady, his hands were not. Close it now, pull everything back, everything. The aide next to him hesitated. We have 60,000 units on the surface. If we pull back now, pull them back, the Hell Priest said. He was watching the footage of Saitama tap a Hell Knight out of his path the way you move a chair that is blocking a doorway. Pull everything back, he said. And wake up the Slayer sentinels. The aide went pale, even by demon standards. All of them, the aide said. The Hell Priest looked at the screen. All of them, he said. The portal was not just a door. In the Doom universe, portals between dimensions were not simple mechanical constructs. They were wounds, tears in the fabric of dimensional reality that Hell had learned to make and keep open through a combination of demonic energy, sacrificed souls, and something older than either of those things, a fundamental corruption of the dimensional membrane itself. Closing a portal from the outside was not a matter of finding a switch. It was a matter of either destroying the energy source sustaining it or overwhelming it with enough opposing force that the tear sealed itself. The UAC had spent years developing technology to close portals. The Doom Slayer had developed a faster method. He walked up to the energy core sustaining the portal, a massive crystalline structure the size of a building, pulsing with dark energy and surrounded by a protective shell of some of the heaviest demon units Hell deployed. And he started dismantling it, not carefully, not surgically. The way you dismantle something when you have done it so many times that the process has become automatic, and the only variable is how long it takes. The protective shell of heavy demons lasted approximately 90 seconds. The Doom Slayer moved through them with the focused intensity of a man who had somewhere to be, each engagement precise and complete. No wasted motion, no unnecessary interaction. Mancubi went down in 2 shots each. Barons of Hell required slightly more attention. The Doom Slayer gave them exactly as much attention as they required, and not 1 unit more. Saitama stood to the side and watched. This was new. In his entire career as a hero, such as it was, such as it had meaning to him anymore, Saitama had never watched someone else fight and found himself genuinely interested in the technique. Not because other people did not have technique. Tatsumaki's psychic combat was geometrically precise. Bang's martial arts were beautiful in a way that went beyond function into something close to art. Flashy Flash moved with an elegance that even Saitama could appreciate on an aesthetic level. But watching the Doom Slayer was different, because the Doom Slayer was not elegant. He was not precise in a way that prioritized form. He was precise in a way that prioritized outcome. Every movement was a solution. Every shot was an answer to a question. The question was always the same. How do I end this specific threat in the minimum possible time? And the Doom Slayer had spent so long answering that question that his body answered it faster than conscious thought. Saitama tilted his head. He recognized something in that, not the power, not the speed, something underneath both of those things. The relationship to the fight, the total commitment to the act of it, the absence of hesitation or doubt or the weight of aftermath. The Doom Slayer did not fight the way people fight when they are afraid of losing. He fought the way people fight when losing is a concept so far outside their operational reality that it does not even register as a possibility. Saitama understood that. He understood it better than almost anyone in any universe. A Baron of Hell broke through the Doom Slayer's line and charged directly at Saitama, full speed, plasma building in both hands. The Baron had clearly decided that the quieter target was the softer one. Saitama looked at it. He let it get close enough that the heat from its plasma buildup was warm against his face, close enough that he could see his own reflection in its burning eyes. Then he flicked it, one finger extended from a loose fist. A single flick to the center of its forehead with roughly the same energy a person uses to flick a crumb off a table. The Baron traveled in a straight line for approximately 200 meters before the ground interrupted its trajectory. It did not get up. The Doom Slayer mid-combat clocked this in his peripheral vision. He said nothing. He never said anything, but he filed it, the same way he filed everything, efficiently, without sentiment, just data going into the operational picture data. One finger, 200 meters, barren of hell. No power-up, no stance, no visible effort. He filed it and kept moving. The energy core died 12 minutes later. The portal above it shuddered. The dark energy pillar that had been visible across the entire city flickered, contracted, and then collapsed inward with a sound like the universe clearing its throat. The tier in dimensional reality sealed itself. The flow of demons from the other side stopped. The city went quiet for the first time in however long it had been since the invasion began. Saitama looked up at the sky where the portal had been, blue. Or what passed for blue in a sky still heavy with smoke and ash, but blue underneath all of it, actual sky. That was pretty cool, he said. The Doom Slayer was already moving, not stopping to observe the result, not taking a moment. The portal was closed, which meant this location was resolved, which meant there was a next location, and he was already calculating the route to it. Saitama followed. Hey, Saitama said, how many of those portals are there? The Doom Slayer held up 4 fingers without turning around. 4 more. Saitama said, 1 finger went down, 3 remaining. We already got 1, Saitama said. Okay, he considered this. That's actually kind of a lot of walking. The Doom Slayer did not respond to this observation. They hit the second portal site 40 minutes later. The Hell Priest had not been idle. When the first portal collapsed, the command decision had been made immediately. Pull the standard invasion forces back from the surface and replace them with something that had not been deployed in this dimension before. Something that Hell kept in reserve for situations that exceeded the parameters of standard military response, the Slayer Sentinels. In Hell's ancient history, before the Doom Slayer, before the UAC, before the modern era of dimensional warfare, the Night Sentinels had been the greatest mortal warriors Hell had ever faced. A civilization of warriors from the planet Argent Denur, soldiers whose combat culture had produced individuals capable of fighting demons on even terms without any of the augmentation that made the Doom Slayer what he was. Hell had broken them eventually. Hell broke everything eventually. But it had not wasted them. It had taken the greatest of the fallen sentinels, the ones whose warrior spirits were too strong to simply dissolve into the demonic collective, and it had converted them, preserved their combat capabilities, enhanced them, given them demonic augmentation on top of their already extraordinary natural ability, and then locked them away, because even Hell was not comfortable with what they had made. The Slayer Sentinels were not demons. They were not human. They were something in between, warriors whose skill and ferocity matched the Doom Slayer's own, because they had come from the same tradition, the same school, the same understanding of combat that the Doom Slayer himself had learned from the Sentinels before Hell had corrupted them. They knew every technique he used. They had counters developed over millennia of analysis, and now there were 12 of them standing between the second portal and whatever was coming. The Doom Slayer saw them from 200 meters out and stopped, not from hesitation, from recognition. He knew what these were. He had faced Slayer Sentinels before, not 12 at once, never 12 at once. The math on 12 at once was complicated in a way that even he acknowledged required adjustment of approach. Saitama stopped next to him and looked at the 12 armored figures blocking the path. Friends of yours. He said. The Doom Slayer's body language communicated very clearly that no, these were not friends of his. They look pretty strong, Saitama said. He was studying them with an expression that was not quite interest but was adjacent to it. The same expression he got when something in a fight registered as slightly different from the baseline of everything else he had encountered. Not excitement, but the possibility of something that might approach excitement if conditions were favorable. The 12 Slayer Sentinels moved. They moved the way the Doom Slayer moved, which was the point, fast, coordinated, each one covering the angles of the others. The whole formation functioning as a single tactical unit rather than 12 individuals. They carried weapons that were direct analogs to the Doom Slayer's own arsenal because they had been trained in the same weapons tradition, and then Hell had replicated the technology in demonic materials. The Doom Slayer met them. What followed was the most technically sophisticated combat the city had witnessed since the invasion began. Not the most powerful, not the most destructive in raw terms, but the most sophisticated, two forces that knew each other's methods fighting at the absolute limit of what knowledge and physical capability could produce together. The Doom Slayer against 12 opponents who had been specifically built to fight him. Every move he made was answered. Every adaptation was counter-adapted. He was faster than any one of them. He was not faster than all 12 simultaneously. For the first time in this city, the Doom Slayer was pushed, not losing, not close to losing, but working, actually working, using everything, moving at full capacity with no margin to spare. Saitama watched this for approximately 45 seconds. Then one of the Slayer sentinels broke formation and came at him. The sentinel was 6 feet 4 inches of ancient warrior discipline wrapped in demonic-enhanced sentinel armor. It moved with the kind of combat intelligence that only came from centuries of actual warfare. It did not charge blindly. It approached with measured aggression, reading Saitama's stance, looking for the opening that sentinel training had taught it every opponent had. It found no stance. Saitama was just standing there with his hands at his sides, watching the main fight with the mild interest of a person watching a movie they are enjoying but not deeply invested in. The sentinel attacked anyway, a combination that the Doom Slayer himself would have needed to respect. 3 simultaneous vectors, blade and energy and kinetic strike in a sequence designed to make any one defense create an opening for the other 2. Saitama blocked all 3 with one hand, not 3 separate motions. One motion, one hand up, and all 3 attack vectors simply stopped against it. The Sentinel's systems registered the impact data and generated a result that caused a full halt in its tactical processing because the result was not possible. The energy it had put into that combination was not possible to stop with one hand. The math did not work. Saitama lowered his hand. He looked at the Sentinel. "That was actually a nice move," he said. There was something genuine in it, not condescension, actual recognition. The 3-angle thing that was smart. The Sentinel stared at him. "Can you do it again?" Saitama said. There was something in his voice that had not been there before, not excitement, not yet, but the door to excitement had opened slightly, a crack of light under a door that had been sealed for a very long time. The Sentinel attacked again. Differently this time, adapted, because that was what Slayer Sentinels did. They adapted in real time, processing the result of each engagement and producing a modified approach. Saitama engaged not with a punch, not with the finishing move. He moved. He actually moved, which was something he almost never bothered to do, catching the Sentinel's strikes and redirecting them, testing the technique, feeling the weight of the combat intelligence behind each attack. The Sentinel was extraordinary, by any standard in any universe Saitama had information about. This warrior was extraordinary. He could feel that. He could feel the centuries of practice in each movement, the deep structural intelligence of the technique. The way each strike was not just an attack but an argument, a logical assertion about where his body should be and what should happen to it. It was the best argument anyone had made to him in a very long time. He was not going to be moved by it. He was not in any danger. The outcome of this fight was not in question. But for 47 seconds, Saitama played. He moved and countered and tested and explored the Sentinel's combat language the way you explore a piece of music you have not heard before. Not to defeat it, but to understand it, to find out what it was made of, to see if there was something in it worth feeling. There was. Not enough. There was never enough, but more than usual. After 47 seconds he ended it, one open palm strike to the Sentinel's chest, calibrated down to the lowest level of force he could produce while still guaranteeing the outcome. The Sentinel went down, the armor held. The warrior inside it was unconscious but structurally intact. Saitama looked at it for a moment, then he looked at the main fight. The Doom Slayer was still engaged with the remaining 11. He was winning. He was always winning. But 11 was a number that demanded attention even from him. Saitama walked into the fight, not running, walking. He moved through the 11 Slayer Sentinels the way wind moves through a field, not destroying the field, not burning it, just passing through it in a way that left everything in a different position than it had been before. 7 seconds. 11 sentinels, each one down in a way that was calibrated to be exactly sufficient and nothing more. The Doom Slayer stood in the center of the cleared space and looked at the 11 unconscious sentinels around him. He looked at Saitama. Saitama shrugged. They were good, he said, especially that one. He pointed at the one he had spent 47 seconds fighting. That one had a really interesting style. The Doom Slayer looked at the sentinel Saitama had indicated. Then at Saitama, he had just watched a man spend 47 seconds playing with a Slayer sentinel, not fighting it, playing with it, exploring it like a musician working through a piece by ear. And then end it in one strike that had clearly been held back far enough to leave the sentinel alive and intact. The Doom Slayer's operational picture updated. His threat assessment of Saitama, which had been running on incomplete data since the moment they met, finally produced a result. Not a classification, not a power level, not a category, just a single line of text on his heads-up display. Generated by a system that had been processing every piece of data it had collected since their first contact. The line said, "Do not engage." The Doom Slayer looked at it. Then he looked at Saitama. Then he pointed at the portal. "Right," Saitama said, "2 more." They did not make it to the third portal before Hell changed the rules entirely. The ground shook, not an explosion, not a demon impact. Something deeper, something structural. The kind of vibration that originated below the geological layer of the planet and came up through everything above it like a signal traveling through a wire. Saitama felt it through the soles of his shoes. He stopped walking. Something in the back of his mind, the part that processed threat the same way a seismograph processes pressure, passively and continuously and without any effort, registered what that vibration meant. Something very large was waking up, something that had been asleep for a long time, something that, even by Saitama's standards, was generating a presence he could feel before he could see it. He looked at the Doom Slayer. The Doom Slayer had also stopped. His visor was aimed at the horizon to the north, the direction the vibration was coming from. His hands were moving to his weapons with the automatic precision of someone who had prepared for this specific moment for a very long time and was now ready for it regardless of whether ready was the right word. "What is that?" Saitama said. The Doom Slayer did not answer. He never answered, but his posture answered for him. Every line of him tightened. Every system in the Predator suit went to maximum readiness. The BFG 9000 came off his back and into his hands for the first time since they had been moving together. He had used the BFG exactly twice in this city, both times because nothing else would have been sufficient. Saitama looked at the weapon, then at the horizon. The northern skyline was changing shape. Something was rising above the buildings. Something that was using the buildings the way you use furniture to push yourself up off the floor. Something so large that the scale of it took a moment to process because the human brain, even a brain that had processed as much as Saitama's had, defaulted to assuming that things that large did not move. It moved. It moved, and the city moved with it. Because when something that size moves, everything in proximity moves too, whether it wants to or not. Saitama stared at it. For the first time since he had arrived in this universe, something crossed his face that was not mild interest or vague curiosity, or the pleasant blankness of a man waiting for something worth his attention. His eyes were wide, not with fear, with something that fear and excitement shared the same neighborhood with but was neither of those things exactly, with the specific, rare, almost forgotten feeling of encountering something that his mind could not immediately resolve into a category. Something that his instincts could not immediately file under manageable. "Oh," Saitama said. His voice was different, quieter. "Oh, that's actually pretty big."